Hi all. In the previous sessions, we had discussed about the different aspects of organizing, that is the meaning of organizing, then characteristics of organizing or organization, and then typology and the different steps of organizing. Now we will start our discussion with the principles of organizing. Okay. So what are the principles of organizing? Principles of organizing are the fundamental concepts you have to follow when you are organizing. They are called as principles of organizing because you want to have a proper structure of your organization, or you want to have a well designed organization, you have to follow some principles. Those principles we are going to study in this concept. So the principles we have is 16 in number. The first principle is objectives. The second one is specialization. Third one is span of control. Fourth one is management by exception principle. Fifth one we have is the scalar principle. Next, sixth one is unity of command. Seventh one is delegation. Eighth one is responsibility. Ninth one is authority. And the 10th one is effectiveness. It is efficiency. Next, 11th one you have is simplicity. And the 12th one is flexibility. Thirteenth is balance. 14th I can write over here. 14th one is unity of direction. 15th personal ability. And the 16th one is acceptability. Okay, these are the 16 principles of organization or organizing we have to consider in the process of organizing. Okay, now let us go through one by one. The first principle is objectives. Objectives are the goals or the decisions to be taken in future. Those are our objectives, right? So here the important role of objectives is there because objectives decides what kind of organization you want to build. So these objectives decide the kind of organization you want to build, and the structure of the organization is dependent on these objectives. That's why the first principle is the organization should clearly define the objectives. The second one is specialization. Specialization means here the activities should be grouped into different departments and or you can say different functions, and every activity should be assigned with a person, or you can say assigning different works to different persons they are specialized in. So consider an example. If you have a research and development department, there you have to have a person who is technically sound or technically very vibrant person. You have to take and place him under R&D department. Similarly, if someone is good and creative, then he should be put in advertising department or marketing department. Correct? So depending on the specialization, different functions need to be decided for different personals in the organization. The next we have is span of control. Here in span of control, number of subordinates who has to be supervised by and manager is decided. Number of subordinates who has to be supervised by the manager are decided by this span of control, and this span of control should be as minimum as possible, because if the number of persons to be controlled is more, then the effectiveness and communication will be lost. That's why the organization should go for span of control with minimum levels. Okay. Next we have is management by exception principle. Here the manager or the higher level executive should be dealing with only the most important or complex problems. The simplest problems will be dealt at the supervisor level or at the lowest level, because the highest level managers will have very less time. They are involved in different other aspects of the organizing. Correct? That's why management by exception principle states that only complex problems or difficult problems should be referred to the higher level executives. Next one we have is scalar principle. This is also called as chain of command. Chain of command. According to this principle, whole organization is considered to be an hierarchy. Based on the hierarchy only decision making should take place. At every level, that is from top level to bottom level, everyone should be given authority and that should be clearly defined. That is what the scalar principle states. Next we have unity of command. Here each subordinate should be supervised by only one boss or manager. That means there should not be multiple bosses or multiple managers who are going to control a single subordinate. If there is a subordinate, then he has to be controlled or managed by only one boss or manager. So if multiple managers are going to give directions to single subordinate or single supervisor, then he will not be able to follow all and the organization structure will collapse. That's why we should have unity of command. There should be only one boss monitoring each subordinate. Okay. Next one we have delegation. Let us first combine delegation and authority and try to understand what are these principles. Okay. So delegation means assigning work to someone or distributing the work to someone, while as authority means authority allows you to take decisions. Allows to take decisions. So combined together, delegation, that is assigning of the work, and then allowing to take decisions, we can make this principle as delegation of authority. Delegation of authority, instead of using delegation and authority separately, we can combine and use as delegation of authority. Here, what the higher level executive do in the organization, he is going to delegate the work, or he is going to divide or distribute the work among his associates or subordinates, and then he gives the authority to take decisions on their own. Simple decisions or some program decisions they can take on their own. So that is allowed in delegation of authority. Next one we have is responsibility. In responsibility, the higher level executive is responsible for the actions of the subordinates. He should not deny his responsibility over there, or he should not put the responsibility on the different subordinates. He can authorize the subordinates, but responsibility lies with the higher level executives. That is the 8th principle. Next we move on to the 10th one, where it talks about efficiency. Organization structure should be such that it should be efficient. Efficient in what way? Efficient in utilizing the different resources like human resources or financial resources or the building area or different offices at different locations. All those things come under the efficiency principle. Okay, the optimum resources should be used so as to achieve the goal or objectives. Next we have the principle of simplicity. Simplicity means the organization should have a structure which is simple. It should not be complex. It should not involve more number of committees or more number of levels. So as the organization structure goes on complicating, it will increase the number of communication gaps in between different levels, and thereby organization structure may not be consistent. That's why organization should be as simple as possible. Next we have is flexibility. The organization structure should be flexible. Flexible means it should get adjusted easily to the different situations. The organization structure can be changed according to the situations without affecting the principle or basic design of the organizations. In that way, we have to structure the organization. That is what about the flexibility. Next one, the balance. The organization should be balanced in every aspect. What kind of aspects? It should be balanced in centralization and decentralization. It should be balanced in utilizing the resources. It should be balanced in unity of command or span of control. Correct? So, in all aspects, the organization should be designed such that it is balanced. Okay? The next principle we have is unity of direction. Unity of direction means every activity going on in the organization should go toward one direction. What is that direction? The direction is achieving of the objective set. There might be different departments having different objectives of their own, but they should be consistent and contributive to the main objective of the organization, and that sets the unity of direction. All are working towards the same objective. It should be there. Then we have personal ability. Personal ability means when organization recruits people for its activities or departments, they should be properly placed and trained for the future purpose. They should not be directly put into the work. Before they go for work, they have to be trained. That is what personal ability talks, where the staff is going to learn what work to be done and how it has to be done, and thereby he develops the different skills and he applies them so as to achieve the objectives set. Next we have is acceptability. The organization's structure should be acceptable to all, because if the people are opposing the structure of the organization, they will change the organization structure in time, or it may collapse in the long run. That's why it should be taken care that all the stakeholders accept the organization's structure. So these are the different principles of organizing, and if these principles are not followed or you are not going to obedient to these principles, it will show up in the growth of the organization. That's why one has to look after these principles, and based on that he has to structure the organization. Okay? So the next concept we have is span of control. What is this span of control? The span of control is one of the principle of organizing, as we have already known from this concept, correct? Span of control is also known as span of management. As I have already explained, span of control or span of management, it defines the number of subordinates who are going to directly report a manager, and thereby the controlling mechanism can be executed. So it indicates number of subordinates directly reporting one manager or supervisor, you can say. So that we can call as span of management. For example, Consider there is a manager and he controls or supervises 5 subordinates, and this 5 is called as span of management. Okay. Now what should be the nature of this span of management? It should be as small as possible. If different aspects we consider, there the span of management can be divided into 2 types, that is wide span and narrow span. Before going into that, what is the importance of this span of management? Why we are going to look at span of management in detail? Because the span of management is going to play a very important role in efficient usage of managers. Efficient usage of managers, and it also plays important role in effectiveness of subordinates. Effectiveness of subordinates. That's why we are going to understand about the span of control or span of management. Now the span of management can be divided as or categorized as wide span and narrow span. Let us discuss what is this wide span and narrow span. When you say wide span, there are less number of levels, or you can call it as flat span of management. Number of levels are less and it is flat, and it has lower efficiency because there will be either 1 or 2 managers controlling large number of people or the subordinates. That's why communication may be effective, because only one manager directly many subordinates can contact him and take his guidance. That is possible, but efficiency will be low. The guidance given to all the subordinates will not be appropriate sometimes. It happens like that. That's why wide span is good only for the, or the advantage of wide span, you can say it is having less number of executives and thereby less payrolls. Okay. When it comes to narrow span, number of levels of management are high or more, and it is effective because tighter control, but it increases the level and thereby increases the number of payrolls. Payrolls increases as the number of executives increases. So this is the difference between a wide span and narrow span, and depending on the trade-off, whether we want less number of executives and less number of levels, versus the effectiveness and control. Okay, depending on that, we are going to decide on either wide span or narrow span. But based on different researches, it has been identified that one manager can have maximum 6 subordinates. Okay, in a flat architecture of organization, we can consider 6 subordinates working under one common manager. Okay, that is the simplest form of an organization. Now let us understand this wide span and narrow span with an example. So this is the example for span of management, where we are going to understand the wide span and narrow span and the different aspects of both the span of controls. So consider a manager who is having 16 salesmen reporting directly. So his span of management is 16. He is controlling these 16 salesmen. There we can say the level of management or organization is 1 and there is only one executive. Okay, so he is not able to control all the 16. Effective communication was not possible, efficiency was not good. That's why he decided so as to recruit 4 assistant sales managers, and then he has given each assistant sales manager with 4 subordinates or 4 sales persons. Okay. Okay. So 4 assistant managers he has recruited, and each assistant manager is given with 4 salesmen, and thereby what he has done, he has increased the level to 2 levels, and the executives, earlier it was only 1, now 5 executives are added. What we can conclude from this, as the span of management decreases, the number of levels and executives increases. You can see earlier span was 16, now span has become 4, but levels and number of executives increasing, and thereby it makes the process or the organization a complex structure, as well as the number of payrolls will be increased. Okay, that is all about span of management, where, as I have already told, it is optimum to have 6 subordinates going directly and reporting to a manager. Okay, that's all about principles of organizing and span of management. In the next session, we will understand the departmentalization in the organizations. Thank you.